2 days ago, Finance Minister Kemi Adeosun disclosed that the federal government has received 365 actionable tips from members of the public since its whistleblower policy was launched in December last year. The government recorded more than 5,000 whistleblowing reports in 8 months, most of them raised by workers in the public service. For more on this, we have joining us right now from our Abuja studio, public affairs analyst Alpha Jackden. Many thanks for joining us, Alpha.
Yeah, Busola, thanks for having me here.
Indeed, we are glad to have you, but tell us, what is your assessment of the whistleblowing policy of the federal government so far? What scorecard will you give it?
Well, I score it very low, and this is the reason. You don't solve a problem with the right or with the same thinking that created it. Whether we like it or not, corruption is amongst the reasons why the whistleblower policy came up. And where you appeal to the greed of man, I assure you that at the end of the day, it won't avail much. If in 8 months we've had only 5,000 leads, and we can see the amount of money that has been paid out to the so-called whistleblowers, I think it's not something that is too good. I will tell you something. The EFCC came up with something some time ago. See something, say something. To a large extent, I believe a lot of Nigerians went blind. But I'll also tell you why Nigerians are not very interested in the whistleblower policy. A policy came up and many people heralded it. A lot of people rushed to it. But if you notice, in the last 2 months, we've hardly heard anything about the policy. Why is this the case? I have a question to the Minister of Finance. I have a question to the Auditor General. I have a question to the Accountant General. I also have a question for the CBN Governor. Busola, as you are seated in that newsroom today, put a call across to them. How much do we have in the TSA? Can they tell us how much has been accrued to the TSA? I bet you may not get the same figures. That is on the one hand. Secondly, I want to know, why has the TSA not been audited in the last 2 months? We had that yesterday. As Nigerians, if you want to see that you enshrine transparency in the system, the government should take the lead in seeing that the business of governance itself is transparent. To a large extent, we really don't know what is happening concerning our finances. You came up, or you implemented the TSA. And to a large extent, you've been telling us so much has been collected from this person, so much has been collected from this person. But I and you know that till date as we speak, nobody can tell us for sure how much has been collected. So as far as I am concerned, we should stop deceiving ourselves. Let's do the right thing. If we want things to work in this country, again, I will advocate for, let's have strong institutions in Nigeria. If we have strong institutions in Nigeria, when it comes to issues where people do the wrong things, even when it comes to employment into the federal civil service, we have a character commission that should take care of that. When it comes to inflated contracts, there are auditioning paraphernalias within offices, and we have an agency of federal government that takes care of that. So as far as I'm concerned, the whistleblower policy is greed begetting greed. Because all you have done is you have appealed to the greed of people to come out and say, listen, if you know that so-so person has this, all you need to do is come out and tell us, and you are likely going to gain this. But I'll also add something here. When you know that somebody has something somewhere, this, I want to believe, is one of the reasons why in the last 2 months, after 1 or 2 persons were prosecuted because they raised an alarm and they got there, the thing happened to be false. What I want you to understand is that if I know today that Mr. A has so hidden in this place, all I need to do is go and meet him and negotiate with him. I don't need to go to the FCC.
Let me come in there.
I don't need to go to the ICPC.
Let me come in there.
Because if I go there and it turns out to be false, I'll get into trouble.
Hello,
so
Alpha.
all I need to do is go and negotiate with him. Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, let me come in.
Have this. Please settle me. Let me walk away.
All right. Well, the Minister of Finance does not apparently agree with you, and quite some Nigerians have come out to laud this particular policy. She said the successes recorded so far is due to the willingness or decision by the whistleblowers themselves to do the right thing. Now I'm asking you, how does this speak to the willingness of Nigerians to conform to norms when there is a right leadership and direction?
Indy, I want you to understand something. Those who are coming out to say these things are not doing it out of patriotism. They are doing it because of what they stand to gain.
Well,
that is the fact.
And
Once upon a time, as I did mention earlier, the
Okay.
EFCC came out with a policy.
Okay, how do you know? Because what you're saying is quite is subjective.
Nigerians didn't see anything. And we were told that corruption at that point was very endemic. The truth remains, every Nigerian knows that these people coming out are not coming out because they are being patriotic. They are coming out because there is something they stand to gain.
That's where I want to come in, Alpha. Hello.
That listen, this man has this or this man has that. They have always
Hello,
known
Alpha.
that those things were there.
Hello, Alpha.
Why did you have to wait for government to come out with a policy that you know you stand to gain from before you are now coming out to tell the world that this is this or that is that?
All right. Okay, let's take it a notch further now and see what the National Assembly is saying about this. You know, there's a bill. If it eventually passes into law, there are some grievances, really. Some people are actually complaining about the bill in terms of when you have a false alarm, you have to go to jail, you have to pay some heavy fines. How would that make Nigeria more willing to come out and give tips if they have any?
All you have done is you've succeeded in expanding the coast of corruption. Because the truth is, I don't want to get into trouble. But if I am very sure that Mr. A or Mr. B has so amount and I knew he primitively accumulated same, all I need to do is go to him. Sir, I know you have this. I have evidence. All you need to do is please kindly settle me. At this point, I don't need to go to ICPC. I don't need to go to the EFCC. I don't even need to go to the Code of Conduct Bureau. So that bill in itself, if they think they are being smart, it will further soften and it will further kill the whole essence, the whole spirit behind promulgating the whistleblower policy. Even though, as I did mention in my earlier remarks, I still stand by it. The truth remains, you don't solve a problem with the right thinking that created the problem. Greed is the bane. Corruption is the aftermath.
Hello, Alpha.
If you go and appeal to the greed of people by promising them a particular amount of money out of what somebody has stolen, I bet you the circle will just continue. So the bill in itself will not help the policy.
All right. Well, it's interesting that you're talking this way because you have Australia, you have US, you have Great Britain. All of them are practicing this policy and is succeeding in those climes. Actually, the government says it's sending an investigative team to do a study tour. What sense do you make of that?
That is, that is just wasting taxpayers' money. When we talk about nationalism, when we talk about patriotism, when we talk about love for country, are you going to compare us with those other climes? We don't need to waste no taxpayers' money. All we need to do is sit down and look inwards. We are Nigerians. Let's start from the labor ward. As a child is born, let's start praying and start preaching to that child against the ills of corruption. Let's make the anti-corruption drive in Nigeria one that is largely long-term. You cannot kill this thing overnight. What I'm trying to say in essence is that as far as love for country, as far as patriotism is concerned, we should not consider ourselves at par with these other major countries of the world that you just mentioned.
All right, thank you very much, Alpha Jackden.
Instead of taking the risk to travel, let's come back and see that we become patriotic Nigerians.
All right, well, thank you very much, Alpha Jackden. I was trying to tell you earlier on that some of the things you were saying bordered on subjectivity and being speculative because you're not in the minds of people to know how they will react. But thank you all the same for being on TVC News Hour.